Hi guys, my name is Jamila and I'm an alcoholic. So I haven't planned my share and I've been stressing since 2:30 a.m. And yeah, I mean, I'm so sorry Mla for last 2 weeks. I'm going to be super mindful when I'm asking people to share. Anyway, I'm going to start off with the third step prayer because that's been my saving grace since I came into treatment. I found that to be, that's what got me going. God, I offer myself to Thee to mold me and to do with me as Thou will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. So I'm going to start at the beginning where I had kind of like normal childhood in a dysfunctional home. I mean, I grew up in Lesotho, riding horses, going camping, and I was never short of anything because my parents worked hard. But I come from a family where it was normal to, it was like dad fighting with mom, mom fighting with dad, and it was Jamila, the eldest, because I'm the eldest of 4 kids. I had to be the one in the middle to like break up these fights and to fix everything, to make sure everything is fixed. So I'm just gonna go like quick because it's just too much. I don't know, but I'm just gonna let God guide me in this share. I grew up away from my family because they thought that I needed, a proper school, a private school, and I didn't live with them. And that's where my fear of abandonment came in. I just felt that they didn't love me and they didn't want me around. And, so I would be living with my aunt, and weekends I would be with my family. But while all this is happening, I know exactly what's happening between my mom and dad. I can see as I sit here that I had alcoholic behavior from a young age, where my dad would be drinking his beer and I would go and steal it, and take a sip of it, and that's been my behavior. I would be playing dice with gambling at the age of 4 years, and my dad was like, "You're not allowed to do it," but Jamila wants to do it because I don't follow anyone. But I put on this act like I'm not breaking any rules because that's who I am. I could act. I could act and show that I'm all okay, but inside I was never okay. So when people speak about that empty feeling, that's how I was from a very young age. At the age of about 12, I think, I don't know whether it's memory issues or it's just avoiding timelines, but I tend to forget like dates, and I tend to forget the ages that stuff happened to me. So at the age of 12 years old, my mom and dad were having one of their fights, and I sent all my sisters out, and it was one of the events that made me who I am, that molded me into who I am. And this time I was between my mom and dad, don't fight, telling my mom to keep quiet, and that's the day my dad shot himself in front of me, and I was the victim. I didn't think about my siblings, I didn't think about my mom, it was all about me and my feelings. And I was sitting there, and because I'm alcoholic, I rode this feeling. I always had this fear of death. Like it was incredibly, I just couldn't handle that, that death. And the thing that I was scared of the most happened, and I had to see this, and I had to face it. And yeah, so after my dad passed away, then I blamed my mom. I blamed her, but I acted like I didn't. And I acted like, I'm super supportive, and I wouldn't let anyone say anything against her because everybody blamed her as well. And there I was taking this protective kind of stance to protect her from everybody that was around us. But in the meanwhile, deep down, I blamed her. I was like, you should have just kept quiet. And that's when by the way, I have to share this because it's what molded me, but I'm no longer the victim. The true victim of my story, the true victims of my story is my kids. They are the victims, and my siblings, they're the victims. I'm no longer a victim. And it's by the grace of my higher power that I can see, like I can see today. So anyway, I was shipped off to boarding school once again, hated it and then loved it. But every single morning I remember waking up at 6 a.m. to do a reverse call in those days, to just do a reverse call to my mom to find out if they're safe, if they're alive, because that crippling fear of death was just over me. I was just this cloud. I just had this cloud of darkness that I constantly had. I could never be happy. I didn't know what happiness was. I didn't know what laughter was, but I could act. If you looked at me on the outside, you'd think she's okay, but inside I was never okay. Fast forward 5 years, the thing that I was like super scared of, but first, while all this was happening, I got into a relationship and I thought this guy was everything, and my mom didn't approve of it. My uncle, who was my dad's brother, was like a father. He also didn't approve of it, and what Jamila does is she acts like she listens, but she doesn't listen to anyone. I took my first drink at the age of about 14, and when I took that drink, it was like, wow, this is what fixes me. And that's what I needed. And it made me feel confident. I didn't have to worry about anything, and I had found a solution. And in that time, I also learned how to gamble, and that was another fix for me. And so it was drinking and gambling within this 5 years. And 5 years later, after my dad passed away, my mom passed away, and that was another blow. I was like, oh my God, God hates me. How can you do this? And like, I grew up in a Muslim home, but I can't conform. I don't follow rules. I don't follow rules well at all. And I just thought that I had this higher power that, that was punishing. And every time anybody said pray, I would act like I'm praying, but I'm not praying. To hell with you. But if I'm in trouble, I'll be like, please get me out of this trouble, and I'll do this and I'll do that. It was kind of like a manipulation and no faith at all, no faith. Anyway, I lived with my uncle, who was a father figure, and because he looked like my dad, he looked exactly like my dad, and he had the stance of being my protector, and that's what I respected, and that's what I needed all the time. I needed somebody to stand up for me. I needed somebody to protect me. And whatever he said went. Whether I liked it or not, I had to just do it. And that's when I got married at the age of 19. I got married at the age of 19, and that was an arranged marriage. I wasn't happy about it, but because I learned earlier on that I have to do as people say, so I avoid confrontation. I have to do as people say, so I don't have to be the bad one. I always wanted to look like the good one, and that's when everything just started going for me. Like, I was never ever happy. I didn't know what happiness was. I got married. I had 2 children, and my kids are the ones that suffered the most, because I had everything in order. I had a business. I had a house. I had everything, but my fix at that time was work. So I would have helpers to take care of my kids. I had a driver to drive my kids, and here I thought I was the best mom, because I used to give them everything, like financially. I did it. I'd send them for horse riding, swimming, and my perception was like way, way wrong. I didn't give them time. So when I came back from work on a Saturday, I'm sleeping. No time for the kids, no time at all. Had someone to do homework with them as well, because I'm too tired. And it's all about me, selfish, self-centered, all about my feelings. And after a few years in my marriage, things started falling apart. it was when my ex-husband went on pilgrimage that I decided, I was like, to hell with you. You expect me to work and take care of the kids, and you're going on a holiday. So that's when I ordered my DOC. And the minute I took it, that was a love affair that started, and that took me like a good few years. Nobody knew that I was using. I mean, I would go to restaurants and I'd go and use my DOC. I would be at work and use my DOC because it gave me that oomph, it gave me that confidence, it gave me like I was invincible, and I loved that feeling. I loved feeling strong. So I used and used and used until I like, and in that time in my marriage, this was like about 14 years of marriage, I had like three major visits to a psych ward because I tried to kill myself. So in my step 4, I resented my mom and dad my dad for killing himself in front of me, and my mom for all the things that she did to me, and I became the same people. Because I'm alcoholic. I always said I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that, but I did the exact same thing. So I have no right to resent any of them. So after I got divorced, my using got out of control. My family didn't know what to do with me. They tried to pull me into the family business, but I was still using. Nothing could fix me, nothing at all. I ended up in Durban, and that's where the wheels fell off. I started using, my disease had progressed to such an extent that I was using medication as a downer and then using uppers to get that high. And towards 2020, I met someone that was using one of the drugs that I said I'd never use. But I was also one of those arrogant ones that said, I'm injecting, but I'm not injecting street drugs. I'm injecting medication that you get from the pharmacy. And that was like my ego. It was like, and at the end, I found myself injecting and using just to die. And every time I woke up, I was like, why am I awake? And then I'd inject again until I just got super sick, and I ended up in another psych ward. And that was my journey into treatment. And I believe today that my higher power had done for me what I could never have done for myself, because I didn't think I had a problem. I thought everybody else had a problem, and if you had my life, you would use too. If you've been through what I've been through, you would use too. And my family, they enabled me. They felt sorry for me. They gave me whatever I wanted because, poor her. And I rode that. I ended up in treatment, and in treatment I was like, yeah, these people can't help me. I broke all the rules. If the counselor said go and make coffee for someone, me, the actor, would be like, yeah, sure. When I leave her, I'm like, to hell with you, it's not going to help me, so I'm not making it. And I actually thought that I could do these steps, write these steps out, and then what I was thinking in the back of my mind was, I'm leaving this treatment center and I'm going to use. I actually manipulated my brother to say, if you don't pick me up at the end of February, I'm walking down this driveway. And they know that I'm very reactive and I'm mad and I've got like no sense of like I can do it. Because that's who I am without a program. As I always share, my higher power did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I was in a dishonest relationship in the treatment center, not because I cared, it was just because I wanted to show them that, yes, I don't follow rules. I'll do what I want to do and I'll get away with it. And that gave me gave me a sense of achievement, quite sick. And they had an amnesty group, and I refused to, because I'm dishonest, I refused to own it. I was like, nah, I don't do anything. But when I owned it, I was like, I'm leaving this treatment center now. And I didn't care about consequences. Because at that point, I didn't know what consequences were. And as my high powers always had my back. And I didn't realize it at the time, because I believe you can only see when you can see, and you can only hear when you can hear, and I couldn't hear a thing then. people would say, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic. Because I'm the actor, I would say it too. I'm just imitating what you're saying. But I didn't believe it. I didn't believe I'm alcoholic. And I ended up getting transferred to the Midlands, which was my saving grace, because I met my sponsor there. I met one of the counselors there that I needed that harshness. I'm one of those that needed to be shown who I really am. I did my steps there, and it was like on an 18-kilometer hike that I actually took my step one, because I can write anything you want me to write. I can write the truth on a piece of paper and not believe any of it, because I can lie to myself. But it just took that 18-kilometer hike of pure physical pain and emotional pain and regret and shame and guilt. And I just saw who I really am. And it was just about accepting that I'm not this perfect person, I'm not this nice person. I'm full of defects, but those defects is what kept me going all those years. It was my defense mechanisms. I got to step I think 4, and I went to my sponsor and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Please help me. And that's the time I started to listen, and started to look at things and let someone tell me, because I didn't have the answers. I like to think that I knew it all, but I knew nothing. I just told her that I don't know how to live. I don't know anything. And that's when I started, the awakening happened, and I just started doing what I was supposed to do, what I was being told to do, blind faith. And at that point, my high power spoke through my sponsor, through the concern groups. I sat through heavy concern groups. I'd get concerned for something small, but I'm being asked to leave, and that was like crazy. Or I'm being sent to the back of the room to say, you're not part of the 3%, you're going to relapse. And I was like, how dare you? And those are the things that I needed to show me exactly who I was. Couldn't accept it. I stayed in the treatment center for 7 months, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. I'm a slowly person. And at the end of it, I didn't want to leave. I'd become comfortable, and I just wanted to stay there because that was my cocoon. And then my sponsor said to me, you can go and live with your kids. I wrote that for 2-3 weeks, and then she breaks the news. She's like, nope, you have no social skills, you've got to go to the halfway house. And I was like, hell no. I fought it because I fight everything, all the suggestions, I fight. That's the person I am. I ended up listening and saying, okay, I know nothing. You know, so just guide me. And I ended up going to the halfway house, and I think 2-3 weeks in, I was called. I'm like, I don't need to be here. I hate people. Forgetting what the program teaches me. It's no longer about me. It's about others. And I just couldn't handle. I didn't trust people because I always believed that people will come and hurt me. People are always going to hurt me, and I just wanted to keep people at an arm's length. I wouldn't let you in. I wouldn't. Today it's different. I mean, I sit here and I've got diamonds that I can lean on. I've got people that I can speak to, and I can be open and honest about what I'm going through. I don't have to keep it to myself. Anyway, I spent 8 months in the halfway house working as a. Firstly, 2 weeks after I came out of treatment, I had a reservation in treatment that if someone dies, I don't think I'll make it. I'm going to pick up. That was my reservation. I held it there. And 2 weeks after coming out of treatment, my uncle dies, who's like a father figure. Didn't get an opportunity to make amends to him. Didn't get to speak to him. And here he is. He's gone. And I didn't know what to do with those feelings. It's the first time that I'm feeling feelings like. And that's what I've always avoided feelings. I've always wanted to hide those emotions. I didn't acknowledge my feelings. but this was the time that my higher power thought it was time to feel them. And through my sponsor, I was able to be of service to my family and not make it about myself. And I got through it. I got through it where my siblings were actually like they could see a change in me. I couldn't see it at the time, but they could, and that's just my higher power. That's just higher power stuff. I worked as a waitress, and entitled me was like, you have never worked as a waitress, and why do I have to do this? I fought it, and I fought my sponsor. She's like, no, you got to do it. And I ended up loving it. It became my comfort, it became my home, and I walked 2 kilometers to work every day, come rain or sunshine. And, you know, my perception had changed. I suffer from a disease of perception, where my perception is totally warped. But I started feeling those changes and looking at things for what they were, and being grateful for the little experiences that I was having, because I was building connections. I was learning how to be a friend. I was learning everything I did. I was learning from the start. I asked my sponsor if I could get a car. She's like, no, you can walk. Scarborough is not big. And I was like, and I did it. I did it. I walked, and I tried to do everything to the best of my ability and follow her instructions. I had issues in the halfway house, yeah, because I'm a reactive person. I had issues with people, and one day I remember just bursting and reacting. Somebody was like, please, can I have a chat with you? And I'm like, nope, I don't even want to look at you. Because that's who I can become. Without this program, that's who I am. That is my reality. That is, I have to accept it, that I'm not this nice, sweet little person that, you know. And I remember saying, please, I don't even want to look at you. Please, can you get out of my face? And I went outside. I was like, can you please move your car so I can leave this place? I don't need to be here. And that's where my thinking takes me. Until I sit back and I process, and I'm like, yo, you don't have to react that way. You know, I've been learning slowly how to respond instead of react, because that's who I am. Anyway, I ended up leaving the halfway house after 13 months, but that time was like building bonds that, you know, that have been so special. It was such a special time for me in that house. And I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity, and that I didn't fight my sponsor, and I didn't want to leave earlier, or didn't run, because I'm also a runner. I ended up getting my own place, but in the same token, because my disease is sitting up there and I hate change, I began blaming this other person that I was in the halfway house with. And I know when I'm blaming other people and not looking at myself, my disease is there, and it just wants to take me out. I blamed them for leaving the halfway house, but what I didn't realize was my higher power was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. A few months after leaving the halfway house, my son got married. Initially, my kids wanted nothing to do with me while I was in active addiction, because I was not a nice person. I was just isolating, and they didn't know what to do, and I blamed them for leaving me. Anyway, after leaving the halfway house, it took time to live. I hate change. Change is something that I don't like at all, and it took so much out of me to be able to be okay living on my own. And today I'm grateful that I have my own space, that I can, for the responsibility, because I also hate responsibility. I was able to be a part of my son's wedding and not make it about myself. But, you know, I've also got experiences of what will happen to me if I don't follow this program and I don't have my 5 pillars in check. Like the wedding week, I didn't contact my sponsor that much. I didn't do many meetings. It was all about my family, and my perception is I owe them amends. I have to be there, and no boundaries. Everything is yes, and that got me in a mess, and that gave me an idea of what can happen if I don't have this program. This program is mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for this program. It's just a miracle that I'm here. I got to make friends. I got to, there's been such special moments in recovery that had I not had this peace and serenity and experienced peace and serenity in recovery, it would have been easy for me to fall. Easy, because I'm just one drug away from a relapse. And that is my reality if I don't do this to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect and I can't relate to perfection. Can't relate, not at all, because I'm still faulty. I have an opportunity now. My daughter gets married in April, and I have an opportunity to be a part of it. I didn't even mention that when I was in the halfway house, she refused to speak to me. She was protecting herself, and she put in a boundary. And the only thing my sponsor said was like detach. And the only thing that she said was send her a text every week, and that's what I did. Just thinking about you, wadi. Every week I did that without fail. But in the meanwhile, I'm feeling like this detaching is like, I don't care. I don't care about my child. But, with respecting her boundaries and not rushing it, today she speaks to me. Today she calls me for that support. And it's only through the grace of my higher power that is the way it is. I could never have done it on my own. I would have probably just damaged her more. I also have experience of what can happen when my defects are on point, because one of my main defects was people pleasing, and no boundaries. So my brother had. I got a call in January to say my brother has been rushed to hospital, and my brother is also like one of those. I think I'm codependent. I have to look at that. Like honestly, that's my codependent person, because that's the person I call when I speak to him every single day. And when I heard that, I was like, that was true powerlessness. I sat on my bed, and I've never felt so powerless like I have in January. I sat on my bed, I was like, what do I do? If this guy dies, I don't know what I'll do. So I sat on that bed and I was like, now what? And the next minute I jumped into my car, not thinking about anything. I'm going to be there for my family, and I drove 700 kilometers to Bloemfontein to be with him. And in all that time, I was driving everybody around, doing things for everyone, people pleasing, doing things against my grain, not. And in that week, no was not part of my vocab, because I can justify it saying that no, it was just I'm being of service, and I can justify it by saying that's my men's, I have to be there for them. But that's not the right thing that I should have done, because by the end of it, I was totally done, because I hadn't done meetings, I'd hardly spoken to my sponsor, I'd hardly reached out to people in the fellowship. I've done everything wrong, and that is my reference point of what happens when I don't do what I'm supposed to do. That week was heavy, and by Thursday I was reacting. I ended up taking my brother home out of hospital and leaving Lady Brand at 7 p.m. at night, driving to Scottsboro, because this is my safety net. And I just needed to be in Scottsboro because I knew I was going to fall. That was something. I knew I was going to fall because I was popping Panados like it was a drug. And that's where I see my disease is cunning, it's baffling, and it's powerful. One drug away from a relapse. I've had situations where, I've used the tools, literally used the tools, but they would, I would use different tools for different situations. There were some situations where I'd have to just practice acceptance and, and have faith that my higher power is taking care of me. And then there were some situations where I would literally have to put in the action. I'd have to go against my head and put in the action to do for others and not think about me, because I love to indulge in myself, love to indulge in my feelings. And then there were other times where I had to sit in my feelings and just feel them, because I hadn't done that for 45 years of my life. I hadn't known what feelings were, how to handle them. But today today as I sit, I'm like, my higher power has had my back, because if life was fair, I wouldn't be here, I'd be dead. With the amount of drugs that I've put in my system, and the amount of times I tried to kill myself, and the amount of times I just hurt people. It's been a journey. For me, recovery is a journey. It's not a destination, because every single day I get to learn more about me. I get to learn about what keeps me ticking, and how I can be if I don't have this program. I can be a bull in a china shop, literally, because I'm a reactive person. Seriously. Yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm just so grateful that I found it. I'm so grateful that I could hear when I could hear, and I could see when I could see. Because without my higher power, without my sponsor, without the fellowship, I would never be here. And I know that without this fellowship, this particular fellowship, I wouldn't be sitting here. Thanks for letting me share.